Hi everybody, Cheryl coming to you from the Ladies Garden and Home. It's Thanksgiving and I thought I would share with you what I'm grateful for in the garden this year, so I hope you join me. I want to start off today first and foremost with the thing that I am most grateful for in the garden this year, and that's you. So if you subscribe to me, I want to thank you very much for following me and commenting and just joining in when I could, and I appreciate that very much. So I wish you a happy Thanksgiving. But to get more to the garden, I think I'm very appreciative this year of the harvest. That is kind of an understatement because I've kind of figured out what to grow and what not to grow, what aggravates me and what makes me happy and what we really do eat. And I would say that as difficult as a year it was as far as the drought goes, I still had a really great pepper crop. I had good tomatoes, although they were a little late, and I had to bring in a lot of them green. We haven't gotten a frost yet. It's gotten cold, but I've kept a couple of them on the vine, so I'm kind of seeing if I can get away with a few more days before killing frost comes. I had a really great celery harvest, and what else? Eggplants, not so much. Corn, onions. Onions were great this year. For the first time ever, I grew some bulbed onions. They weren't huge, but they're a good size. It's kind of perfect for cooking 1 or 2 meals at a time. So that I was very grateful for. And the potatoes did well, and I experimented this year, and I kept them in the grow bags until I needed them, and that seems to be working. And I guess before the killing frost I'll bring them more of them in, but I'm going to leave some in the bags just kind of as an experiment to see if through the winter they won't rot, and I'll be able to just harvest them when I need them even through the winter. But I'm only going to do that with one bag, I decided. I'm not particularly grateful of this critter over here, although I think this is Flora, not Fatima Bottom. This is Flora, his wife, and she's a little bit more polite. She likes to just eat flowers and things on the ground like she's doing now. But Fatima Bottom, I was not appreciative of this year because he really ate tons of my squash, the leaves off of the sweet potatoes again, until I figured out this method. And that's these wire cages with the cane to keep them in. And it wasn't until I got the canes in that they really started working. So I was able to grow back some of those sweet potato leaves, not enough to get a good harvest of sweet potatoes, but I got some smaller ones. But so far with the brassicas, this seems to be working. What's cool about this long-handed bulber is that I can plant my bulbs and my seedlings without having to bend over and do the work with my back. And then as far as this weeder goes, all right, here's a weed. You put it over the weed like that, step on it, and look at that, it pulls the weed right up. So those two tools enabled me to do things in the garden that I probably wouldn't have been able to do by myself. So for that, I'm really grateful. I know we gardeners complain all the time about times of drought, which we had quite a long spell through the heat of the summer this year. But the main thing that I'm grateful for about that drought is that I did not have as much disease damage this year. I did not have a problem with black spotting or any kind of those fungal issues, at least not really bad. And speaking of fungal issues, one thing that I was really happy about is that I had major fungal issues on my fig plant here, my little fig tree. Well, it was bad, and I didn't know if it was going to survive. I transplanted it. It did need a potting up, and then I took a baking soda spray, just some baking soda mixed with water, and I sprayed the leaves, and they said you had to do it like maybe once a week until it got better. But I have to say that even just a couple of applications and the fungus was gone, and it doesn't look like it now because she's shedding for the fall, but she really survived that fungal issue, and the leaves came back very, very nicely, and I even got some figs out of her this year. This is just a fig named Sue, by the way, and I am going to be wrapping her in burlap. I normally bring her inside for the winter, but because I had to repot it in this huge pot, I don't have room in my house anymore, so I'm going to wrap her in burlap when it gets colder. I'm very grateful for the bees this year. A lot of people in the garden club, which is in my neighborhood, and people that I saw posting online, "Hi, Flora." Oh, she's right there. She has no fear of me whatsoever. Hello. What you doing? You just staring at me? All right, well, I have a video to do. Do you mind? Okay. Anyway, I had a lot of bees, and I think it's because I had a lot of flowers. The calendula, I have kind of taken over the yard, but they're so pretty. One of the very first flowers in the spring, and look, it's the end of November, and I still have a ton of them flowering. So I kind of managed them by just weeding out what I didn't want and moving where I wanted them to be. In addition to the calendula, my roses did well this year. I got a couple of, I was gifted a few hydrangea plants, little ones, but they bloomed, and I cut them and brought them inside and let them dry, so they're going to be making the house look pretty through the winter. The lavender, I never harvested the buds, so I just let them bloom, and the bees and hoverflies just loved it, and it made the garden smell beautiful. And my spring bulb garden was just so much fun in the spring to see that color. It's over there by St. Francis. And I did a video about that when I planted them up, and I will link it at the end, because now is a really perfect time to get your bulbs in. Anytime before, like, you know, as long as you can work the ground in the fall, it's a good time to get your bulbs in for the spring. I also did a lot more flowers than I normally would have because I don't have the space inside for seed starting them. But I tried the winter sowing method, and my favorite was the plastic bag method. I also did a video on that, which I can link. So I got a couple of different types of flowers that I normally wouldn't have grown. And I really think that made a big difference in the garden this year. One thing I was a little surprised about this year that I'm very grateful for, although it was very unusual, is I didn't have as much bug damage and infestations. Normally, I'll get a plant or two that has aphids on them, and I have to, you know, treat that, and or I'll see squash bugs in my my zucchini, and I'll have to stab the stem to kill the bug. But I didn't see any of that this year, which is a really good thing. Even my leeks didn't have that, what do they call it, the allium miners this year. I wonder if that was the weather. Maybe it was just a blessing. I don't know, but I am very appreciative that I didn't have those kind of really frustrating problems. We also had many fewer butterflies. I was surprised. Normally, my garden attracts a good number of monarchs and those pretty black ones with the blue wings. I'm not sure what they're called again. But that was surprising to me, especially with how many pollinators I had. But I did try growing milkweed, which didn't really do too terrific. And I didn't have my Mexican sunflower because the one that I planted in the spring died. And then this fall, this one just self-seeded itself, which was interesting. Let's see if it'll end up flowering before the frost. So next year I'm going to try again with the milkweed, which is important for them when they're having their babies, and the Mexican sunflowers they really love. So I'm going to plant those again next year. What I also didn't have, which I am grateful for, are those white cabbage butterflies that lay their eggs, and then their eggs turn into larvae that eat any kind of brassica you've ever grown. And I'm very grateful about that. Usually in the fall, we have still a ton of them flipping around like beep, 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 beep. But no, we didn't have those. I'm also very thankful to the ladies in the garden club, the Chopin Point Garden Club. Shout out. Um, it was their 100th anniversary this year, and this was like my first full year in the club, and I was able to do a lot of activities. But more importantly, I was able to learn from a lot of really experienced gardeners who are local to me and have the same issues as I do. And so I wanted to say thank you to all of the ladies at the garden club. You're terrific and fun. And maybe I'll share some video of some of the projects that we did this year later. I got to edit them. Okay. Before I go, I just wanted to also share with you a couple of tips to do in the garden this time of year, kind of Thanksgiving tips. Bring in your leaves, chop and drop the dead plants or the fading plants in place. Cut the plants at the base where the soil meets. Leave those roots in there. And mulch. Mulch well. Your soil will really, really appreciate it next year. If you have time and the money, go ahead and lay a couple of inches of compost down. But I think I'm going to wait till the spring to do that, and I'm going to just chop and drop and leave everything. You can wait until like your first frost or first freeze to do that, but you know, that's something that you can do in the fall. The if you haven't already, bring your plants in that aren't going to make it through your winter. I did that with my hibiscus plant. I brought in a geranium plant, the ginger I brought in, you know, things like that that are not going, that won't do well in the cold weather. Of course, I do that usually when the nights get down to about 50 degrees if they're a tropical plant, and that was a while ago. So, but that's another tip. Save some seeds. And I'm not saving that many seeds this year because I have done that in the past, and I have plenty of home sown seeds. Home sown, home harvested, you know what I mean. But if you're going to do that, make sure that you're getting it off of a really super ripe fruit like a tomato or a pepper. Make sure that they're super ripe, ripened on the vine, not inside the house. If there's something like a flowering type of seed like celery or fennel, make sure that those seeds are dried and black. If it's something like a pod, like a bean or a pea, just make sure that it dries nicely and is kind of a papery sound to it or a papery feel to it, and then collect the seeds. So, you know, this is a great time to do that because as things are kind of dying back, you know, the seeds are doing their thing. And if you haven't throughout the growing season, take some time, maybe, you know, over the next couple of weeks to just write down some notes. I keep a journal just on yellow sticky pads, and I am able to just use those same weeks of the year together to get some kind of trend. I did a video about that too, which I can also link. But anyway, take notes, take some notes, because come springtime, you're not going to remember. Or if you are going to remember, you're much smarter than me. And finally, I'm very grateful for a major lesson that I learned in gardening this year, which is I don't have to fuss as much as I used to get results. Little surprising. For example, I didn't bother pruning my tomatoes. Again, we had drought, so I didn't get that, fungus issues, but I had a good harvest. You know, I didn't weed as much. I didn't worry about so much about the aesthetics. There were a lot of things that I just let them do their thing, and it ended up working. I did have to water a lot, but a lot. But I also realized that if I plant something and I do care for it, I don't fuss around with it too much, that it just does what it wants to do, what it's supposed to do. So that was a really important lesson for me because I think I've developed these back problems over the years of just overdoing it too much. So I'm very grateful for that lesson. So that's it. I said it before, but I'll say it again. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing my videos with your friends. And I hope you have a wonderful, blessed Thanksgiving. And just a reminder, at the end of this video, I'm going to put a little clip of my lady who passed in January. She's the dog that the Ladies Garden and Home is named after. So I hope you watch to the end. And from the Ladies Garden and Home, enjoy your gardening journey. Bye! And of course, I'm very, very grateful to be able to share my gardening journey with my little lady. She's had some health problems over the years. She's either 16, 17, or 18. We're not sure which. But thank God she's been well lately, and she's looking so pretty in her Thanksgiving Day bow. Thank you for joining me in the garden all the time, lady, even when you want to go inside. Lady says, Happy Thanksgiving. Say goodbye, lady. Lady says goodbye.